welcome to my channel. My name is Alice. I go by Hello Alice here on YouTube and I make art videos. And if you've watched my last video, you know that this is part 2 of my entire watercolor collection, which I am fully swatching for you guys. Sorry that I couldn't do this all in one video, I just have way too much stuff, but I really hope that you guys enjoy the second part of my watercolor collection. This part is going to be focused on my watercolor pencils, my individual watercolor tubes, and then other things like watercolor crayons and stuff like that. So I hope you guys like it, and yeah, let's just go right back into the swatching. Which way are we going? I don't know what I'm doing. I keep my loose watercolors in these giant jars, which I cannot fit on screen right now. So I'm just gonna dump them out. So these are all my loose watercolors that are not Dan Smith. All the Dan Smith ones have their own container just because I have more of those. This is just a variety of different brands, so let's separate those out. So the first ones that I have are the Van Gogh ones that I mentioned were in this little guy. These are the paints that are in here. The colors that they are in are Permanent Blue Violet, Yellow Ochre, Sap Green, Ultramarine Deep, Burnt Umber, Cerulean Blue, Phthalo Hue, Permanent Lemon Yellow, and Permanent Red Deep, in case anyone's curious. These are great little starter paints. I really enjoy the Van Gogh paints, actually. So those are my tubes of those, and I should put these in an actual palette because I believe they're only in here, so I don't use them very often. So then these are my core watercolors, which I have also shown you the swatches of. And these I got in a palette full packs box, and I may actually put these in a palette with the Van Gogh ones as well. I really like these watercolors as well, and I definitely want to get some more and try these. So again, not swatching those just because you've already seen swatches of them. But the next ones I have are by Lowell Cornell. These are very inexpensive watercolors. They are very old. I've had them for a very long time. For some reason, I somehow ended up with 2 sets of them, so I actually have multiple of each colors. And these are metallic watercolors. So I have 2 peridot, which are green, 2 gold, 2 copper, 2 marcasite, which is a dark, like, gray, 2 aquamarine, and 2 ruby. So these are not in any palettes because these actually do not dry very well in terms of ability to re-wet. I think these are used better from the tube. They just kind of break apart and get crumbly when they dry on a palette. So let's swatch these and you can see what they're like. So this is what they look like all in a palette. This is the peridot, the aquamarine, gold, copper, ruby, and then the dark gray marcasite one. I don't remember where I got these honestly from. I think my mom gave them to me. They might have been from Walmart, but Lowell Cornell I do not believe is an expensive brand. I believe these are relatively affordable. And I will try my best to get links to these down in the description box. Or as many links as I can find. I can't promise anything, but I'm gonna try. These are pretty pigmented. Like, that's pretty. Copper, come through. And that is the ruby. So the last tube that is in that box is actually not watercolor, it's Cason in titanium white. Cason I used once in like a drawing class, and from what I remember it was basically like a white paint that could be thinned with water and built up to a more opaque white. I just kind of keep this in here because it's a tube and it kind of matches, and yeah, I haven't used it in a while though, so I should play with it more. I'm not going to swatch it just because it's white. It's basically like white paint. So and then we also have all of these little like pans in here. So I have a variety. These guys are all just refills for my Schmincke paints when they run out. These are ones that I was starting to run out of. So you've already seen swatches of all of these colors. These 2 are just empty containers for my Dan Smith paints. So these 2 paints are old Schmincke paints. So they're paints that like I have replaced, but they're not quite gone enough yet for me to justify throwing them away. So you've already seen swatches of both of these as well in my Schmincke kit, but that's why those are in there. And these last 2 were from this guy. I said that this originally had Winsor and Newton Cotman paints in it, or not Cotman, just Winsor and Newton paints in it, and these are leftovers from there. Honestly, don't know what happened to the other ones. I must have moved them someplace else, and I don't know where I moved them. So I have Bordeaux Madder Lake and Cobalt Blue left of those, and I will swatch those for you. Okay, so one other travel palette I have you guys have seen before. These are my Zeki paints. So this is actually a Winsor and Newton travel kit. And it looks like this. It's a great kit. This actually slides off and it becomes a water holder. This is a water bottle with another palette on it. This is a brush that actually comes apart. This is like such a great little travel kit. I haven't used it in a little bit just because I've been using my portable painter a lot, but before I got my portable painter, this was my go-to travel kit, was this guy. And then this folds out and you have the paints right in here that you can replace really easily, like this, and they come up. So these used to be filled with the Winsor and Newton paints. So I purchased some paints from Zeki's to go in here. So Zeki is a Italian art store in Florence. And so these are their home brand paints. They're made with honey, I believe. They're really good. I like them a lot. I'm gonna go ahead and swatch these for you. This is yellow despite the green all over it. And yeah, let's go. I'm gonna swatch these two first just because they're kind of by themselves. Oh, that's pretty. Why did I not know I owned these colors? Wow, glad I made this video. So that is Cobalt Blue, and this one is Bordeaux Madder Lake. Sorry, my yellows are all slightly green. Kills my mother, I'm pretty sure, the way I treat my watercolors. Probably killing some of you guys as well. I'm sorry. This is an exceptionally pretty color palette. So as I said, the other jar does contain my Dan Smith paints, the tubes. I'm not going to swatch all of these because, again, they have all already been swatched. These are the paints that are showed up in like 10 different palettes. But I just wanted to show you that you do get the tubes and you can refill, I mean, so many times with these tubes. And if you are interested in trying Dan Smith, I actually started out with these guys. These are 5 milliliters, and you can buy them in little sets, like multicolor sets. And that's how I started with Dan Smith, is I bought 2 of these tiny little sets, and then once I realized that I did indeed like the paints, I slowly bought one at a time, kind of asked for some for Christmas, asked for some for my birthday, and just kind of collected that way, which is kind of how I ended up with what I have. And I haven't bought any more for a while because I'm pretty happy with the colors that I have. Dan Smith has hundreds of colors, but you really don't need them all. Most colors can be mixed. You know, it's nice to have a large selection of colors just for convenience, but it's not necessary at all. So yeah, those are my Dan Smith paints. Oh no, I just dipped my hand in paint. Look what I've just done. Alright, so I'm not just going to show you guys my paints, I'm showing you my watercolor pencils as well because I'm insane. So, I'm going to start with this guy because this is the most watercolor pencils I have. This is the Artisa 72 watercolor pencils. It's their expert set. This is actually not my favorite ones by Artisa. I prefer their woodless watercolor pencils if I'm being 100% honest, but obviously this does have a much larger selection of colors, so let's just start swatching, and we'll talk about them while we swatch. There are 3 layers of pencils in here. It comes in a tin. That's all you need to know about this packaging. It's really nice, actually. I do have a review of a lot of these different paints, so like if you're looking for a more in-depth review... Excuse me, I'm trying to film. Could you be quieter, construction? Thank you. So if you are looking for a more in-depth review of these kind of things, just check out on my channel in my reviews playlist. I am very sorry if you can hear the construction in the background that has just decided to start. I regret this already. I hate construction. This video is at least 50% musical. No, these are not in any kind of color order. They're not in any color order in my set either. I think, if I remember, they came in an order, but it wasn't like a full rainbow order. It was kind of strange. And then they've gotten even more messed up out of that order since I've, used them. And I'm not exactly super concerned with making sure all of my colored pencils go back in a rainbow order. Funnily enough, that's not a huge priority for me. She says, looking at her rainbow organized Copic markers and feeling like a hypocrite. Now we just have to add water. That's the easy part, right? I like these pencils. I just feel like they don't blend away as well as some other ones that I have when I add water. I like the colors, but I don't know. I kind of feel like they're really nice to use as regular pencils. They're okay to use as watercolor pencils. They wouldn't be like my top recommendation. But I don't like hate them either. And if anyone is interested in watercolor pencils, I do have a watercolor pencil tutorial that I just uploaded a week or two ago. And it is, a lot of people had kind of been asking me how I use watercolor pencils to sketch and how I incorporate them. And I've had a lot of positive feedback on it so far. So it seems like people are finding that helpful if you want to go take a look at it, if you're interested in learning about watercolor pencils. I don't know, I just feel like the pigment of these doesn't really blend away. Like, you can still see the pencil lines when you add water on top, which is just not something that I super look for in watercolor pencils. But they are really nice regular pencils. Like, they're very creamy, so it's kind of weird for me. I put them on and I'm like, oh, I really like these, and then I add water and I'm like, oh, I wish you blended more. Would you guys be interested, as I think about this, in story times, like, not naming names or anything like that, not drama, not talking about other YouTubers, to be very clear, not talking about other YouTubers. I love all of the YouTubers that I love the art community. I'm not talking about other people, period. But would you be interested in more, like, story times about the kind of YouTube side of the art world, like dealing with companies, like, like I've had certain experiences with companies and things like that, and in a sense, like, I'm not going to name names or anything like that. And this has nothing to do with Artisa, by the way. This is just me thinking about other companies, like, as I'm doing this. But, like, would that be interesting to anyone? Would you guys be interested in story times about, like, the YouTube side of things relating to art? Again, not, like, I'm not spilling tea here, not, like, dramatic stuff, just, like, story times. If that would be interesting to you, let me know down in the comments. Oh no, I just threw water all over myself. Because I have a couple, and I've been trying to think of more art-related story times, because a lot of people say they like them, but I don't have that many. My life is not that exciting. Like, I have friends, they have so many story times, because, like, stuff happens to them, but not a lot of stuff happens to me. People are always like, how's your life going? I'm like, good. They're like, what's new? I'm like, nothing. Okay. Whew. Woo! 72 colors later, and those are the Artisa Expert Watercolor pencils. Alright, so the next thing I'm going to show you guys are these guys. These are watercolor crayons. These are actually really fun. I don't use them very often, but these are by Staedtler. They're watercolor crayons. I don't really know what else to say about them. They're crayons, and they're watercolor. Alright, let's watch them. I sort of bought these on a whim one day from Hobby Lobby when I was having like a really shitty day. So I don't use them super often, but they're actually like really fun to use. I used them semi recently. I don't remember what I used them in, but I think it was like on my YouTube channel. Honestly, it could have been a bullet journal video, but they're nice to use, and I should use them more often. I really don't know why I'm swatching white, you guys. Got our colors there. Let's see how these blend. And we add some water to them. Yeah, that's what I remember. These are pretty nice to work with. I think the crayon part kind of makes sense because, I don't know, I feel like it's going to melt away. It's going to dissolve better when you add water to it than a pencil. But obviously you can't get as fine of a point, and yeah, it's just a different medium to work with, but I like them. I should use them more. I feel like filming this video is a way to help me kind of remember some of the supplies that I have that I don't use very often. Alright, so those are the Staedtler watercolor crayons. So, in this little tea container, I keep my watercolor pencils that just kind of miscellaneous watercolor pencils, I guess, but there's mostly 2 brands in here. Okay, so I have all of these watercolor pencils that were in that little container that you saw, and these are pretty much 2 brands. There's the Derwent watercolor pencils, which I have been very vocal about not being a huge fan of, and the Albrecht Dürer Faber-Castell watercolors pencils, which are by far my favorite watercolor pencils in the world. There's also this guy in here. This is the Stabilo Aquarelli. I think I bought this not realizing it was a watercolor pencil, but it's quite a nice watercolor pencil. It says it right, it's on paper, glass, plastic, and metal, so that's kind of cool. But yeah, you can add water to this. I didn't realize that when I bought it, so I'll swatch this first since it's all on its lonesome. Alright, so this guy has almost a chalky feel to it. It's very interesting. But it works great, so. That is the Stabilo Aquarelli. And let's move on to the Derwent. I would say that the Derwents feel a little chalky as well. They have a similar feel to the Stabilos in terms of chalkiness, which, to be clear, I don't necessarily mean that as a bad thing in terms of pencils. So long as they do what they're supposed to do, I don't really care. But they don't feel as waxy. This one feels a little bit more waxy, but they don't feel as waxy as the Artisa ones. These are not bad watercolor pencils to start with. Look at this. What happened to this one? And I was happy with them when I first got them. I just have found a lot more that I like better since then, is kind of how I feel about the Derwent pencils. I have heard wonderful things about the Inktense. To be very clear, these are not the Inktense pencils. I don't own them. I would like to. These are just their regular watercolor pencils. They are famous for their Inktense pencils. They're supposed to be phenomenal. I like Derwent as a brand, so I definitely want to try those. I just haven't yet, so I'll have to try those and make a review for you guys. It's kind of like what I was saying to you guys with the other watercolor pencils. You can see they don't all fully blend out. You can still kind of see quite a bit of harsh lines, and it's just not really what I'm looking for in a watercolor pencil, personally. I also feel like they lose a little bit of their pigmentation. Not all the colors. I mean, this purple's pretty. Like, see the black, the blue, and that yellow, and even that green? Those ones were nice. You can see it's almost like there's an inconsistency where some of them blend out really well and some of them just don't. So, interesting. So then these guys are the Albrecht Dürer. I do like the fact that these, the Dürer ones, that the body of the pencil is the color. It just makes it a little easier to see what you're grabbing. So the Albrecht Dürer, as I mentioned, are my favorite watercolor pencils. They are quite pricey. Well, not quite. Like, they're pricier. They're the priciest option, I think, here. But I think they're well worth the money if you enjoy watercolor pencils. If you work with watercolor pencils frequently and you like them, I think they're well worth the money, especially for the color selection. I just think they blend really nicely. I think they're really pretty color-wise. I don't get as much breakage from these pencils. I think that maybe just because they're a little thicker, I don't know. It does make them a little harder to sharpen sometimes, but overall, I have not been disappointed with these pencils at all. They're my go-to, and I really highly recommend them. Again, these colors are not in any sort of order just because they are just loose in my little tea, what are those called? Tin? A tin. Yeah. Okay, I'm not swatching my white. Swatching this feels pointless. It was pointless in all the other ones, and I don't know why I did it. Probably because people tell you cheat no matter what you do. Whatever you're doing, it doesn't have to have rules, it doesn't have to be a challenge, it doesn't have to be anything, but if you put it on the internet, someone's gonna yell at you for it. So as you can see, like, even though there are still some marks visible in certain pencils, and some aren't quite as pigmented as others, overall, these guys do blend so nicely and are really pigmented. Obviously, there's some pencils that aren't always as good as other ones, just kind of how pigments work. But I do really like these guys. You can see just how much more it melts the pigment on the paper. Similar to the way the crayons melted, and even like some of these ones, some of the Derwent ones that worked nicely. Alright, so those are the Albrecht Dürer watercolor pencils, all swatched for you guys to see. So the last watercolor pencils I have are in here. This is called Chocolate. And they're just mixed, and basically all of this is from Wish. So I'm gonna pull out the watercolor pencils and we'll swatch them. Okay, so these are all from Wish, which, if you don't know, Wish is basically an online app where you can go and get really cheap stuff, and it is from like China, and it takes like forever to get here, like a couple months, but it's all really cheap. So I did a testing art supplies from Wish video, which I will link if you are interested in checking that out. And I did pick up some watercolor pencils, so we're gonna swatch these Wish/Deli pencils, see how they go. I actually really like the way these pencils are designed. Like, they feel very slim, and like they have like a nice finish, like matte kind of finish when you hold them in your hand. I know that sounds weird, but like they look kind of nice. Like, they look sleek. Let's cover. Aww, we've got a casualty. First casualty. Rip. Good job, green pencil. Come through, green pencil. Not bad. I did try these before, but it's been a while. I feel like I remember them being decidedly, like, they could be worse. Like, I was like, okay, Alright, I can work with this. Should I do another cheap art supplies challenge? I haven't done one since like 2014. Like, yes, some suck, but some are doing a good job. I've noticed with some pencils, it tends to be like certain colors work really, really well, but there's like other colors where it's just not happening. And I wonder if certain pigments are easier to work with, like in terms of formulation, than others. Like, I would imagine that pigments that are more staining pigments would maybe be harder to blend out because they would have already stained the paper. Alright, so those are the Wish pencils. Alright, so then I have one last set of watercolor pencils to show you. These are in my travel kit. I always keep them in my travel kit now, but these are the Artisa woodless watercolor pencils. These are my recommendation for anyone that is beginning watercolor pencils. You heard me say it 1,000 times. I really like these, and I'm gonna go ahead and swatch them. So I'm just gonna skip swatching the white, as I think we've come to the conclusion that that's pointless. And just go on in with the colors. And I will say that my personal opinion is that these are better than their 72 set. I think they're significantly better, honestly. I don't know if they like changed the pigment or what, but I think these blend out a lot nicer. I also like the fact that these are woodless because you can kind of use the edge, which is really, like the side, you know, which is really helpful for sketching on the go. That's why these are always in my sketching kit. These are my go-tos for sketching for sure. Alright, let's add some water to these guys. Blend them on out. Like, you can already see how nicely these blend compared to some of the other ones that we've seen. So yeah, these would be my favorites. Okay, and those are my Artisa woodless watercolor pencils. Now, in reality, that probably should have been the end of the video, but I just found these, and I know for a fact that I have more of these, but I have no idea where they are. Maybe they got mixed in with my gouache or my acrylic, but these are the Artisa watercolors, and I am going to go ahead and swatch what I can find of these for you as well. I'm just going to swatch right out of the ends of these just for ease. These are their premium watercolors, and I have done some work with these before as well, when I also tried the other watercolor pencils. So I haven't done too much work with them, though I'd like to use them more. Maybe I'm not missing one. Actually, I might not be missing one because that would make 12. If you add in the white, that would make 12. I just feel like there should be like a purple or something in there. And I feel like the reds are very pink. Okay, so these are the Artisa watercolors. And with that, I have shown you every single watercolor that I own. So it has taken a month or so. This is all of the swatch sheets that I have from swatching everything. General destruction of my art room. I hope that you guys liked it. If you haven't checked out part 1 of this video, make sure to go check it out. I will have it linked in the description box down below. If you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and hit that notification bell to be notified every time I upload a new video. I do upload an art video every single week. And yeah, thank you so much for watching, and as always, have a great rest of your day. Bye guys!